The core mechanics of female attraction. Have you ever been completely blindsided by a woman's sudden shift in attitude? It is one of the most frustrating experiences a man can go through. One minute she is warm, highly attentive, laughing at your jokes, and sending every signal that things are moving forward perfectly. Then, out of nowhere, the temperature drops. She becomes cold, distant, slow to reply, and leaves you completely scrambling for answers, trying to figure out what you said or did wrong. Most men get stuck in this exact cycle because they are looking at the relationship through a purely logical lens. They think if they are nice, buy gifts, or have a decent job, the math should just add up to attraction. But human emotions do not operate like a math equation, and female psychology does not respond to logic. It responds to tension, behavior, and subconscious cues. The raw truth that most men will live their entire lives without ever grasping is that women do not fall in love with who you are on paper. They fall in love with what you make them feel in their core. To really understand this, you have to realize that every single interaction you have with a woman is not just casual conversation. It is a live demonstration of your emotional stability. She is constantly, often completely unconsciously, testing your boundaries, your confidence, and your internal strength. Through your body language, your tone of voice, and the way you handle minor inconveniences, she is reading a deeper story. Every glance, every text message, and every moment of silence is a metric. She is measuring whether your presence brings a sense of absolute safety or if your energy makes her feel alive, thrilled, and excited. There is no middle ground here. If your presence does not trigger these specific emotional responses, you automatically become background noise to her. When you miss this fundamental reality, you doom yourself to a cycle of overinvesting, over-explaining, and endlessly chasing women who will appreciate your kindness but ultimately refuse to commit to you. This entire complex psychological dynamic actually boils down to just two foundational pillars. Women fall in love for exactly two reasons, and two reasons only: security and desire. Think of these as two distinct frequencies you must broadcast simultaneously. The problem is that the vast majority of men fail miserably because they choose a side and stick to it. They become the hyper-reliable, overly predictable nice guy who provides endless security but zero excitement. Or they become the unpredictable, chaotic player who triggers massive desire but zero trust. Neither approach works on its own for a long-term, deep connection. One makes you safe but completely boring, while the other makes you exciting but entirely replaceable. The real magic happens when you stop treating these two concepts as opposites and start viewing them as a powerful duality. When you master the delicate art of balancing deep, unshakable security with sharp, magnetic desire, you completely break the standard dating mold. You stop being someone she easily categorizes, and instead, you become an intoxicating, unforgettable force in her life that she simply cannot walk away from. The blueprint of true security. Let's strip away the nonsense and the superficial myths you've been fed by mainstream dating advice. True security has absolutely nothing to do with the size of your bank account, the car you drive, or how many hours you spend lifting weights at the gym. While those external things might capture temporary attention, they are completely useless when it comes to capturing a woman's heart and respect. True security is an internal reality. It is about absolute emotional certainty. It means that when life gets chaotic, when unexpected problems arise, or when high-stress situations hit, you do not panic, whine, or collapse under the pressure. It means that when a woman tests your boundaries, questions your judgment, or throws an emotional storm your way, you do not break. You do not lash out in anger, and you absolutely never act desperate for her validation. You remain grounded. You are a man who knows exactly who he is, and that internal rock-solid certainty radiates outward without you ever having to say a single word to prove it. To understand why this is so deeply magnetic, you have to look at the world from her perspective. Women naturally navigate an overwhelming environment filled with rapidly shifting emotions, immense social pressures, constant superficial attention, and hidden anxieties. Because their internal and external worlds can experience frequent waves of instability, they are biologically and psychologically wired to look for an anchor. When a woman meets a man who possesses an unshakable emotional core, his very presence acts as a sanctuary. You become her shelter in the storm, a safe harbor where she can finally let down her guard and step out of her defensive posture. This deep sense of safety has absolutely nothing to do with being loud, dominant, or arrogant. In fact, arrogance is just a cheap mask for hidden insecurity, and women see right through it. True security is found in the quiet calm of a man who is simply impossible to rattle. It is the heavy, peaceful energy of a mountain that remains completely unmoved, no matter how hard the wind blows against it. The beauty of true security is that it is never communicated through grand, theatrical gestures. It is broadcasted continuously through tiny, everyday micro moments. A woman is an expert at reading these subtle signals, often calculating your emotional strength long before you even finish a sentence. She notices exactly how you handle a heavy silence when she is upset or distant. If you instantly panic and start over explaining yourself, apologizing for things you didn't do, or begging her to tell you what's wrong, you instantly communicate that your stability depends entirely on her mood. True security means you can sit comfortably in that silence, giving her space without losing your peace. It is demonstrated when you stand completely firm in your core values and principles without feeling the need to argue, yell, or force her to agree with you. You don't compromise your standards just to keep her happy because your self respect is not up for negotiation. This brings us to the ultimate paradox of attraction that most men completely miss. True security requires ironclad boundaries and deep self respect. When a woman realizes that you love her deeply and value her presence, but that you are also completely strong enough and self assured enough to pack your bags and walk away if you are disrespected or mistreated, her respect and attraction for you skyrocket to an entirely new level. It shows her that your love is a high value gift, not a desperate dependency. The nice guys who get endlessly friend zoned fail here because they mistake submissiveness for care. They bend to every whim, break their own rules, and allow themselves to be treated like an emotional punching bag just to keep a woman around. But weakness disguised as kindness is completely repulsive to female psychology. Women do not choose, respect, or fall in love with men they can easily control, manipulate, or walk all over. They choose, crave, and commit to the men who create a solid, unyielding foundation of self respect that they can genuinely trust, triggering high level desire. Let's be completely honest. Security without desire is nothing more than a glorified friendship. This is the exact trap where thousands of good, well intentioned men find themselves permanently stuck. They do everything right on paper. They are polite, supportive, reliable, and attentive, yet they end up stranded in the dreaded friend zone. When you only offer security, a woman might deeply respect you, she might genuinely care about you, and she might even tell her friends what a wonderful guy you are. But her heart will never race when your name pops up on her phone screen. Desire is the visceral, electric spark that changes everything. It is the raw emotional currency that makes her restless in the absolute best way possible. Desire is the exact reason she finds herself smiling at her phone for no apparent reason, losing sleep because she is replaying your latest conversation in her mind, and counting down the hours until she gets to see you again. Without this emotional electricity, you are just a safe, predictable option, and predictability never built passion. To understand how desire actually works, you have to realize that it is born from contrast, tension, and a healthy dose of mystery. It thrives when a woman feels that you are just slightly out of reach. Now, Let's clarify this immediately. This has absolutely nothing to do with playing cheap, manipulative mind games, waiting a specific number of minutes to text back, or pretending to be someone you are not. True mystery comes naturally when you are a man who possesses a genuine purpose, a dedicated mission, and a vibrant life entirely outside of her. When your world does not revolve around her existence, you create a natural emotional vacuum. Women do not want a man whose entire schedule is instantly empty the second they call. They want to feel the challenge of earning your attention, your time, and your focus. If you hand over your entire soul, your deepest secrets, and your absolute devotion on a silver platter from day one, you eliminate the chase entirely. Human beings naturally value what they have to work for, and if your attention feels cheap and unearned, she will instinctively treat it as low value. The moment you attempt to force, chase, or logically convince a woman why she should like you, you instantly kill whatever desire was trying to grow. You cannot bargain for attraction. You cannot tell a woman how great of a partner you would be, or try to win her over by smothering her with nonstop validation, endless texting, and desperate compliance. The very act of chasing sends a loud, clear signal to her subconscious mind that you view yourself as beneath her and that you are trying to compensate for a lack of intrinsic worth. True desire is never forced, it is completely evoked. It is triggered entirely when your boundary, your frame, and your overall presence communicate that you are a high value man who is highly secure in his own skin, a man she could actually lose if she fails to bring her best self to the table. This realization completely bypasses her logical mind, ignores whatever superficial checklist she thinks she has, and hooks her raw emotions directly, making her crave your presence on an instinctual level. The deadly dichotomy: the nice guy versus the player. This is the exact fork in the road where the vast majority of men completely ruin their chances with women. They look at attraction as an all or nothing choice, forcing themselves into one of two extreme categories, entirely blind to the fact that leaning too heavily on either side is a relationship death sentence. When you provide absolute security, but fail to trigger a single ounce of desire, you become the stereotypical nice guy. You are safe, you are dependable, and you are completely, devastatingly forgettable. This man does everything on her terms. He listens to her complain about her problems for hours, answers every single text within 30 seconds, and showers her with unearned validation. In doing so, he silently signs a contract to become her emotional crutch, her part-time therapist, and her ultimate backup plan. But he will never, ever be her lover. She will tell him how much she values his friendship, but when the night ends, she will leave him sitting on the couch while she goes out to chase the man who actually makes her blood pump and her heart race. On the absolute opposite side of the spectrum, you have the archetype of the player, which represents massive desire built on zero security. This is the man who understands how to create intense emotional tension, playful banter, and unpredictable environments, but he possesses no emotional stability, no real boundaries, and no genuine reliability. A woman might become temporarily addicted to his chaotic energy, his toxic charm, and the wild highs and lows he introduces into her life, but deep down, she knows she can never truly trust him. Because he offers zero emotional safety, she constantly feels anxious, guarded, and unsettled around him. She quickly realizes that while he is incredibly exciting for a casual fling, he is entirely replaceable for anything meaningful. She will indulge in the passion for a brief season, but the moment she craves real stability or looks to build a solid future, she will leave him behind to find a man who can actually give her peace of mind. To build an unbreakable, lifelong bond with a woman, you have to break out of this binary trap entirely and master a powerful psychological duality. You must learn to be both the rock and the storm at the exact same time. This means you do not choose between safety and excitement. Instead, you seamlessly weave them together into a single, cohesive masculine frame. You demonstrate your unyielding security by being a man of your word, someone who is consistent, reliable, and emotionally unshakable when the stakes are high. At the exact same moment, you spark high level desire by remaining fiercely dedicated to your own personal mission, staying slightly unpredictable, and refusing to let your entire life be easily figured out or controlled by her. You give her a foundation she can trust with her soul while maintaining an edge that keeps her on her toes. When you fail to balance these two opposing forces, the relationship naturally falls apart because human psychology thrives on contrast. If you give a woman nothing but pure, unadulterated stability, the environment becomes stagnant, routine, and utterly boring. If you give her nothing but pure, unchecked chaos, the environment becomes draining, volatile, and emotionally exhausting. No one wants to live in a perpetual state of boredom, and no one can survive in a perpetual state of exhaustion. The real magic, the psychological sweet spot that drives a woman completely wild, is the perfect, deliberate blend of both. When you can offer her the serene comfort of absolute safety alongside the electric thrill of a challenge, you create an intoxicating emotional cocktail. You become the rare exception to the rule, a man who cannot be easily categorized or replaced. And that is the exact moment a woman stops looking at other options entirely because her mind and heart are fully consumed by you. The art of passing the tests automatically. If you ever find yourself frustrated, thinking that a woman is just playing childish mind games with you, it is time to wake up and see the bigger psychological picture. She is not trying to annoy you, and she is not acting out of malice. She is testing you. You need to understand that these behavioral tests are not random. They are deeply, systematically wired into female psychology as a natural defense mechanism. A woman's emotional and instinctual radar is constantly scanning to see if you are actually the real deal or if you are just putting on a temporary act of confidence. She uses these subtle social and emotional trials to measure with absolute precision whether you have the masculine backbone to handle both her emotional world and your own internal drive. She needs to know if you can simultaneously provide deep security and trigger intense desire when the stakes are high. And she will intentionally throw you off balance just to watch how you recover. The most common test you will ever face happens when she suddenly pulls away, becomes quiet, or deliberately hesitates to text you back for hours or even days. This is the exact moment where the average man completely destroys his own chances. He experiences an instant surge of anxiety, panics, and immediately jumps into fixation mode. He starts double texting, asking what he did wrong, and practically begging her for clarity and reassurance. This desperate reaction is an instant attraction killer. By panicking, you are shouting to her subconscious mind that your emotional stability is fragile and entirely dependent on her attention. You are proving that you do not value yourself and that you need her constant approval just to feel secure in your own skin. The second she realizes she can shake your entire foundation simply by putting her phone down, her respect for you evaporates, and with it goes any remaining drop of desire. The next time she withdraws or creates emotional distance, you must choose to completely flip the script by holding your frame. Instead of rushing to close the gap or demanding an explanation, you must remain entirely calm, give her the space she is creating, and keep moving forward with your own life. Do not check your phone every 2 minutes. Do not sulk, and do not alter your schedule. When you maintain that kind of unshakable internal peace, something incredible happens in her psychology. Your refusal to panic serves as absolute proof of your emotional security. It communicates that you are an anchored man who is not easily rattled by a temporary shift in the weather. Paradoxically, this exact display of independence is what instantly reignites her high-level desire. When she realizes that her absence doesn't break you, she suddenly feels the terrifying and exciting realization that you are a man she would actually lose, which naturally compels her to gravitate right back toward you. These tests will also show up when she directly challenges your core values, questions your decisions, or pushes against the boundaries you have set for yourself. The weak man assumes that bending his rules, changing his mind, and constantly compromising his standards will make her happy and earn her love. This is a massive trap. The moment you fold just to please her, you fail the test completely, losing both her respect and her attraction in one single move. A woman cannot feel safe with a man who collapses the moment she pushes back against him. Instead, you must learn to stand tall, communicate your boundaries with absolute certainty, and defend your principles without getting angry, loud, or defensive. Arrogance is weak, but calm certainty is bulletproof. When you lead with that quiet, firm confidence, you show her that you are a man of true substance, a man who cannot be manipulated, and a man she can genuinely respect and look up to. Decoding the hidden language of attraction. Long before a woman ever finds the courage or the right moment to admit out loud that she is falling in love with you, her subconscious mind and daily behavior will have already given the secret away completely. You have to realize that women rarely announce their deepest emotional transitions with direct verbal declarations right at the start. Instead, they broadcast their growing attachment through a highly sophisticated network of subtle, nonverbal cues and psychological shifts. Most men completely miss these golden indicators because they are trapped in their own heads, constantly overthinking their relationship or waiting around for a blunt, explicit confession. If you want to know exactly where you stand with a woman without ever having to ask, you must learn to stop listening only to what she says and start watching how she moves through your world. Once you develop the eyes to see these patterns, you will realize that her actions are constantly speaking with absolute clarity. The very first psychological indicator to watch is the dramatic shift in the quality and direction of her attention. When a woman's heart begins to invest in you, her mind starts working like a hyper focused archiving system, capturing and storing the smallest, most random details about your life. She will surprise you by effortlessly remembering a passing comment you made weeks ago about your childhood, the exact way you prefer your coffee, a minor goal you mentioned in stride, or a specific habit you didn't even realize you possessed. This happens because you are no longer just a casual acquaintance in her mind. You have become a central focus. Her brain is actively anchoring itself to your personality, categorizing your likes, dislikes, and quirks because you matter deeply to her emotional ecosystem. When a woman remembers the tiny details that the rest of the world naturally overlooks, she is showing you that you are consuming her thoughts in the best way possible.